The opening salvos of the European Championship fired. Who's had the upper hand when it comes to the early group game skirmishes? Favourite backers struck first. Overs players were also in clover over the weekend, but we have had shocks and surprises in money and goal line markets. Time to reload. The Matchday 2 battle is ready to commence. This is Betting Weekly Extra Time, Euro 2024 edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Daniele Fisichella and Rory Barlow. Daniele, very good day to you.
Hello.
What are your main takeaways over the course of the first few matches with big guns generally have done well? Italy, of course, a come from behind success. Who's impressed you?
Germany and Spain, for sure. Germany, dominant performance against Scotland. Perhaps we underestimate them. And Spain, a new Spain. Who needs the ball when you got Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams running at defenders for the first time ever? Probably Spain losing the possession game, but winning the game in style against Croatia. Good win for Italy. Good win for England. We expect a bit more, but we always expect here in England. And in the end, France won, but it was Mbappe who ended up with a bloody nose.
Indeed, he did, and we'll talk about Mbappe shortly. Rory, as Daniele has mentioned, Spain were impressive. Scotland, not so much. Who's caught your eye over the course of the first week almost of the European Championship?
Yeah, it was hard to get Germany out of my eyes on Friday night, it has to be said. They were very impressive, as bad as Scotland were. So yeah, Germany has to be said. They've made their case. I mean, I liked them before the tournament started, but yeah, I think it's hard to look past the kind of main phase. I have to say, I don't actually think we learned huge amounts from that first round of games. I think a lot of the big teams kind of went more or less as expected. Maybe some were a little more or less impressive, but without huge variation from what we expected. It was more the likes of Belgium and Slovakia. That was a big shock.
Yeah, that was a big shock. Round about plus 600 on the money line. That has been the biggest shock so far. When it comes to the futures, and we're speaking ahead of Portugal playing, so there could be some tweaks and changes. France were favourites ahead of Mbappe's broken nose, Daniele, as you mentioned. We're now plus 400 France, plus 400 England, Germany plus 500, plus 700 Spain. Just on Mbappe, Daniele, how big a blow? Obviously, it was a big blow to break the nose, but how big a blow was it for France? And do we think he's going to play against the Dutch? Do you think he's going to have to sit out a few games? And even if he does, how much will that affect France?
He even tried to come on back onto the pitch after breaking his nose. That shows how much he wants to play and how much he wants to prove a point. It is an Mbappe who came under a little bit of criticism in France for the way he left PSG, probably not having a great season domestically. So probably he'll try to play. And for France, they do rely a lot on him. They create a lot on that side, on the left wing, a little bit less on the right wing. So not having him obviously poses a big question for Deschamps. Who's going to be deployed on the left wing? Is it going to be Thuram, who's probably naturally fitted to play there? Then Kolo Muani in the middle. But certainly from yesterday, there'll be a big question. Name me three French people famous for their nose. Cyrano de Bergerac, Gérard Depardieu, Kylian Mbappe.
I love it. Just going back to one of Daniele's points, Rory, about Spain. They did lose the possession battle for the first time in 100 years, well, modern era, against Croatia. Maybe that was because of the game state. They went ahead early. But do we think that Luis de la Fuente is finding a different way to play? You mentioned it on one of our preview shows, that they are slightly different. They're not completely tic-a-taca, are they?
Yeah, certainly that's been the argument that they put across in Spain, and it's been I always put in one radio show as the reason Spain are now more favourites for the Euros than they were before. So that gives you an idea of kind of how it's gone down in Spain. I think this is what's been promised by Luis Enrique, by Luis de la Fuente. This is the Spain that people have been talking about for the last few years, and we did see it against Croatia. But I mean, I'm in a funny place. I actually watched that game and saw as many flaws of Spain confirmed as I saw reasons to be positive, and equally so I think for the Spanish. I'm going to end up backing them later on in the show, but yeah, I think you look at the amount of chances that Croatia created, that space in between the midfield and the defence, and yeah, I wasn't as impressed as everyone else, even if Lamine Yamal and the likes of Alvaro Morata played very well.
We'll get on to the Spain-Italy clash shortly, very much head-to-head between Daniele and Rory, of course. But we're going to kick off our previews with a Wednesday game, which is midday Eastern in Group A. We've got some leans in this fixture as well. It's Germany against Hungary. Germany are now minus 420. They have been supported in the market. Hungary are plus 1100, the draw plus 550 for this one. Danielle, you've got a play in here. Germany obviously put Scotland to the sword on Friday. Hungary maybe surprisingly fell to Switzerland. What's your take on this one?
Both teams to score a plus 100, which I think is a good return considering how well drilled were Germany and how well built were their goals. Perhaps the 5-1 scoreline is a little bit generous for Germany. Of course, Ryan Porteous being sent off contributed to that. The last goal is a wonder strike from Emre Can, a player that wasn't even in the squad until 3 days ago. So there is a lot of good coincidence for Germany. But, the patterns of play, that's what really impressed me. The quick interchanges of position, quick movement from Wirtz, Gundogan, Toni Kroos, and really intelligently Nagelsmann has placed Toni Kroos alongside Gundogan, but not necessarily close each other into the field. Sometimes they were even 30 meters apart from each other, so to make sure they got quality in both areas, next to the defense and next to the attack. But from Scotland, way obviously a poor performance. They defense didn't know whether to step in, whether to drop back, and Germany exploited that, and in the second half they continued to dominate. When it comes to Hungary, of course, the curse of the dark horse, shades of Turkey 2021, which we all tipped to be the dark horse, and then they were outplayed by Switzerland, and probably the Swiss decline is not quite yet as we expected. But Hungary, a team that is resilient, that has created chances, has managed to come back into the game for at least 20 minutes against Switzerland. They got a very good crosser of the ball like Szoboszlai, then of course strikers who can hit the ball like Varga. Of course, I think it is a team that is not obvious. They're gonna come out fighting. The last 3 head-to-head, Germany-Hungary, Hungary hasn't lost any of those. They are sometimes defensively vulnerable. If they cut out the mistakes and play the way they know how to play, trying to stifle Germany, probably this is a game that is more suited to them. Soak out the pressure and hit them on the counter. Germany, on the other hand, they didn't concede a single shot on target with Scotland, but previously they had some defensive frailties. I like to see them under pressure a little bit more. Both teams to score for me, plus 100.
Even money for both teams to score, yes, in the Germany-Hungary game for Daniele. Rory, got some leans for us here. First of all, you're expecting Germany to come out of the blocks pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you saw that in the first kind of 10 minutes. They were a little bit less sort of aggressive than they were in the rest of the game almost. But I think now that they have that confidence, they will go after this Hungary side straight from the bat, and I think that they will cause them a lot of problems. I think for Germany, there's a chance to wrap up this game in 45, 60 minutes, and that's you through, and you're playing kind of with house money after that, because you're probably going to top the group anyway. So I think there's a good chance of that. I've gone Germany minus 0.75 first half of Asian handicap, and that comes back at about minus 110. And I just feel this Germany side are going to go after Hungary. I think Hungary showed they do have vulnerabilities, even if I think both the Switzerland game was harsh on the Hungarians, and the Germany game was maybe a little bit too generous to the Germans based on Scotland's performance. So yeah, I think they will come out the blocks fast, and yeah, my second lean is Florian Wirtz, who I thought was just magic. He is just such a good player, and the confidence that he's coming into this tournament with, given the way he played during the season with Leverkusen, I like him to score or assist, and that's at minus 137. Yeah, I just think he's in a pure state of form right now, and I think he will cause the Hungarians problems.
Couple of leans there from Rory. We like Germany minus 0.75 first half Asian handicap at minus 110 against Hungary, so we're hoping that Germany starts strongly, and Florian Wirtz to score or assist. This looks a really good bet at minus 137. Had a really good game, of course, against Germany, against Scotland, off the back of a terrific season in Germany for Leverkusen, as Rory points out. Well, let's move on to Scotland versus Switzerland. This is 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday in Group A. Scotland are plus 360, Switzerland minus 118, draw plus 255. Rory, you are in Cologne. Tell us what the atmosphere is like at the moment.
Yeah, well, you'll like this anecdote, Dan. This wasn't mine, to be fair. I must be said, but there was a group of England fans in the middle of the fan zone yesterday who started saying Scotland get battered everywhere they go. Now, fair enough. They, based on Freddie's evidence, they are correct. But they were in a field of Scotland fans basically, and spent the next half hour taking pelters off the Tartan Army. So yeah, well deserved. But the atmosphere is good in Cologne. I think there's a few kind of loud Swiss fans, some remnants of the English fans left over, but everywhere you look, you do see blue. The Scotland fans are definitely in town.
Daniele has got a selection in this game. Rory, you haven't, but we will get your thoughts on it. But we're going to get Daniele's play first and foremost. What do you think, Daniele? Scotland versus Switzerland. What's the pick here?
I think this is going to be a tight game. I went for under 2.5 goals, minus 132. Switzerland demonstrated an energy and an urgency that perhaps were a little bit unexpected. We all thought they were declining, they were fading. But maybe we underestimated them. They are extremely organized, and they got a couple of young players up front, the likes of Ndoye, Dua, of course, who scored the goals, Ebischer, who plays for Bologna, as well as, the old journeyman, Remo Freuler, again, player for Bologna, Granit Xhaka, who definitely control the game, and they were extremely energetic. I said, they're very effective, they don't need many shots on target to score. Brian Mbolo scored the third goal. Again, he was lucky not to fall and trip over his knee support, but yeah, that was a good win for Switzerland, which shows once again what they are about. Yeah, team that is organized, a lot of tournament experience, but being this the second match in the group, both teams might be a little bit cautious. Switzerland are not known for being a high-scoring side, and Scotland, on the other hand, probably got a bit of a conundrum whether they stick to the same 11, albeit Ryan Porteous was suspended, of course, or switch to a back four. So Steve Clarke has shown a bit in his mind, really. But, from the Scotland point of view, the defensive frailties is not new. 26 goals conceded in the last 10 matches. If you look at the games they lost recently against top opposition, Spain, France, Netherlands, it could have been expected that defeat against Germany, of course, is the way they lost, especially with, McTominay, McGinn not giving enough protection to the back four, and the defense of Scotland have always seemed to be caught into mind whether to go or to hold their position. I think this is going to be cautious. Again, paramount for Scotland not to lose because of the 5-1 defeat, the goal difference. Otherwise, it's going to become impossible to recover. Under 2.5 goals, minus 132.
This is the conundrum, Rory. I know you've not got selection in this one. You have swerved it. But do Scotland need to win? Do they draw and then look to win their final group game against Hungary? How do you think Steve Clarke's team's going to approach this fixture?
Knowing Steve Clarke, I think it's much likely to be the latter. I mean, Switzerland demonstrated their quality against Hungary. I was a little bit surprised about that. As we commented in the preview show, I don't think we saw the Swiss side being quite that good. But having done that, Steve Clarke knows that a defeat here more or less puts Scotland out. So I think he'll look to take it to the final game. I think Scotland, my point of view is that it can't really worse. I mean, even against Germany, even as good as Germany were, it's as weak as a performance, it's as limp as a performance as I've seen from Scotland in quite some time. So I think, yeah, there has to be a little bit of a reaction. And the Swiss side, yeah, they know a point more or less gets them through. So I could see it kind of suiting both teams to a certain extent. Obviously, goals change games. If there's an early one goes in, that will slant the game a lot. But yeah, a draw doesn't actually hurt either side too much.
Yeah, draw is plus 255. It might be the way to play, but Daniele's play of under 2.5 goals is the selection at minus 132. Solid play. We've seen a few more unders as the tournament has gone on. Let's get to Denmark, England, which is midday Thursday stateside. Group C, of course. Denmark plus 500. England minus 157. Draw plus 280. This game being played in Frankfurt. Rory's swerved tipping on Scotland, but Rory, you're quite happy to tip on England. Maybe those supporters that you were talking about early will not be so nasty to Scotland fans if they knew your selection here. You're going for an England win. You're not going to be able to show yourself with your brethren here.
Yeah, listen, I like England through these group stages, it has to be said. England, I think, were pretty unimpressive against Serbia, but they did get the job done. It was a Jude Bellingham special in that sense. I mean, fine performance, didn't really do too much, but gets the crucial goal. That was Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid all over. And I think that kind of defines this England side in a lot of ways under Gareth Southgate. They aren't probably going to blow you away. They're not going to play scintillating football, but they will win their games that they're supposed to for the most part. We've seen them trip up in the latter stages of tournaments, but we're not there yet. So yeah, I think this Denmark side are not as good as the Denmark team of a couple of years ago, the one that took them right down to the limit in those Euro semi-finals. So yeah, I see a Denmark side that are not bad, that will cause England issues, but I kind of see England just kind of seeing out this game, 6 points from 6 through to the next round more or less with a game to go. And yeah, I'm going England under 3.5 goals at -106. That's my pick. And yeah, it's just they're not impressive, England, but they're not bad either. They're still better than their opposition.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, Danielle? And you've got to lean on this particular play that a lot of the focus was on the England defence and how poor it might be, but they did manage a clean sheet when most didn't over the course of the weekend action. I mean, it's still a concern, Danielle, isn't it? The England backline wasn't tested too much by Serbia. You suspect that better teams will have more joy. I'm not suggesting that Denmark are a better side, but do you still see that England weakness potentially at the back?
I saw them struggling with a couple of crosses coming from the right-hand side, of course, because on England left-hand side, there is a right-footed player with Trippier, and probably he's less well-suited to stop across there. Still left to sweat on Luke Shaw fitness, a player that hasn't played since February. But having said that, a good solid performance from England. They are a tournament team. They became a tournament team under Southgate. They know how to navigate these early stages. Look at the stats. They lost very few games since 2018. And I'm not expecting them to lose against Denmark either, but I don't expect them to shine. These are tight games. European teams are no pushovers. Neither is, of course, Denmark. Are teams that perhaps hasn't got the brilliance of 3 years ago, but still got players like Christian Eriksen, of course, Pjelmir Højbjerg, that can slow down the tempo, that can control the game, and England will have to show a lot of resilience. They do have good patterns of play, especially on the right hand side with Saka, with Walker. Belling has been good. I like Alexander-Arnold in the midfield role. Again, let's see when they are tested against a team that plays progressive passes and keeps the ball a little bit more. I don't see a lot of troubles for England in this game and in the group in general. I stick with under 2.5 goals, -152. Let's see what happens with Denmark. They only lost 2 games in the last 2 years, but to be fair, they haven't played anyone as strong as England. Under 2.5 goals, -152.
Daniele goes unders. Rory goes unders with an England win. You would never tip England to actually win the tournament, though, I take it, Rory?
Absolutely not. No, that's where I draw the line, Dan.
That's Denmark versus England, which is midday Thursday, Group C. Let's go back to Group B. I say back, it's a later kickoff on Thursday. Spain versus Italy. Brilliant group game, arguably pick of the group game. Spain are +116, Italy +265, draw +230. In the red corner, we do have Rory Barlow, who is the editor of Football España, and in the blue corner, of course, Daniele Fisichella, Italian football journalist and broadcaster. So you're head-to-heads here, boys. Now, obviously, you did the group previews for us as well. Daniele, I mean, I'm not going to go to Daniele first. I go to Rory first, because you can put the case for Spain here. You do like Spain just on the money line, don't you?
Yeah, +116. I think they will win this game. I mean, as I was saying earlier, this Spain side, they didn't really necessarily settle my fears about them in terms of their defence, in terms of allowing teams in that gap between the midfield and the defence. And generally, I think what we do get with the more direct Spain, which is what we're kind of praising in a certain regard, and that does make them more dangerous as a team, you do also lose in control. And so you lose that ability to kind of see games out, to shut games down when you want to, as opposed to necessarily going back to front all the time. So Spain, I think, in this game, they are going to be caused a lot of issues by Italy. I think Italy will come up with solutions to what Spain put in front of them, especially you saw Croatia really struggle with the press. I think Italy will deal with that better, despite, so I think it was more of a surprise, if anything, that Modric and Brozovic didn't really deal with that too well. But I think Spain have more firepower than Italy. And Italy, you see that game against Albania. I thought Italy were good against Albania, but you didn't see them put them away. You didn't see them really take them to the sword. And as much as Scamacca is in very good form, I think you look at Spain's front line and they are confident right now. So I just see this game being relatively open. I think Italy, it benefits them more to close it off a little bit more. But yeah, I think Spain have just a little bit more firepower. And ultimately, if this was a knockout stage game, I'd actually be less confident about Spain. But seeing as it's a group game, they got a first win against Croatia. I think they're a little bit more free. So I think Spain will have the advantage here, plus 116, as you say, Dan.
Daniele, can you make a case for Italy? You've not got a bet in this. You've not even got a lean in this one. You are swerving it as Rory swerved the Scotland outcome. Can you make a case for Italy winning the game here at, what are they, plus 265 or not?
They're unbeaten in 7 to start with, but again, the last defeat was against England, and they lost twice against England in the last year and a half. Difficult to make a case for Italy because they are untested against big nations, so it's going to be a big test for them, for their resilience, and also for Spalletti. I think they'll have to use a lot of tactical acumen. They need to be really, really astute, not to play it into the hands of Spain, and especially exposing their defense. I wonder whether Spalletti is going to go back to a back three here, maybe with the wing-backs, and try to control Yamal and Williams that way. Perhaps that double pivot, Jorginho and Barella, might need the support of Cristante there, but that means Italy will retract a lot and leave Chiesa on his own up front with Scamacca. He doesn't like to play as a second striker. Look, from the win against Albania, you need to save a couple of things for Italy. Their reaction, the fact they were composed, they were calm, they didn't matter that they went behind after 23 seconds, play well, encamped in the opposition half, could score a couple of goals more. And yes, these are the positive. Chiesa's performances for sure, Barella, Jorginho, Scamacca making some clever runs as well, and Di Marco recovering well after the mistake. Having said that, it was Albania. It was the second lowest ranked team in the Euros. They're a bit tougher opposition. I want to see Italy tested by a team that keeps the possession a lot. I mean, that gives them a run around. So yeah, it is hard to think Italy are gonna win this one, are gonna dominate. They are a team in transition, and for me, Spain are a little bit more far ahead in their transition under De La Fuente. Having said that, this is a classic at the Euros. They played 5 times already since 2008. Always been an intriguing game. They've always been goals. Always been most of the time both teams to score. Apart from the final we lost in 2012. So I'm expecting pretty much the same pattern. These are teams that have got strong defense. There's no Chiellini, there's no Bonucci, there's no Fernando Hierro. They can't just sit back and defend. Goals will come. Corners will come, chances will come. Both to score for me, probably over 2.5 goals. That's how I see the game pan out.
Yeah, both teams to score, yes, is minus 121, incidentally. Overs is plus 108, but Rory's pick is the bigger plus 112. And just a couple of Daniele leans there. Just a brief word, Rory, before we move on Alvaro Morata, because he scored again for Spain. You know, he's got such a terrific record for them. He's a player that he's never sort of talked about as being a top world-class striker, but I mean his record is terrific still. Plus 510. Do we do him a disservice here? That's plus 510 to get the first goal. What are your thoughts on Morata?
Yeah, I mean Morata, you can hear the doubts in my voice because I really like Morata as an actual profile of football in terms of the characteristics he has. He's almost a perfect number 9 for Spain in terms of him as an actual player. He will always get chances, but you just can't rely on him, and that is the ultimate difference between Morata being having stayed at Chelsea, at Juventus, at Real Madrid, at Atleti, he could leave this summer, and teams really backing him, and teams being a little bit back and forth. I mean, to give you kind of an idea of his season in Spain, he hit 20 goals, I think, just after Christmas, and then he scored 3 in the league after Christmas. So he is a streaky player. He scored that first chance. That gives him a big confidence boost, but you don't know when that dip is going to come. So yeah, I think it's very hard to put money that I want to retain on Morata personally.
Plus 225 to score at any time, incidentally, the game. Probably the pick of the group fixtures. Should be an absolute cracker. We like Spain to win this one. Daniele is swerving the Italian question for now, but overs and maybe both teams to score. Let's move on. Poland against Austria. We've got to play in this one. This is Friday, midday in Group D. Poland plus 260. Austria are even money here. Poland lost late to the Dutch, of course. Austria had chances, Daniele, against the French, but ultimately they were beaten as well. How do you assess these two? What's the play?
Both very energetic and they showed good resilience. And I think the best news for them is they only been beaten by 1 goal. So the goal difference, it's okay. They can still make it even with 3 points. Even if they win one, they lose another one. So it's really, really important for them to stay in the game, stay in the competition, avoid a big defeat as they did in Matchday 1 here. I like the Poland on the Asian handicap plus 0.25, minus 127. It could be a draw. I think qualitative-wise, they are very similar. And Poland will get back the best player, Lewandowski, who missed the first game. And, they showed some improvement in the attacking phases since the last World Cup. They play with a better intensity without their main man. I know they scored from a corner, but after Netherlands equalized, Poland had a couple of decent chances, especially thanks to the wingers, Zaleski, Frankowski. These are two players that can take people on, whereas Austria are very strong and very compact in the middle. They made it difficult for France to break through, but on the wings, that's where France had the most joy. So I think Poland could manage to score a goal here. Austria, on the other hand, a well-drilled team, press high, of high intensity. I think possibly this could be a draw for me. Austria, again, would be quite happy to get with a point, and Poland, of course, the most important thing is to stay in the competition. Then Poland might face France, maybe already qualified in the last game of the tournament. A lot of options could happen. Poland Asian handicap 0.5, minus 127.
That means a draw or a Poland win would see Daniele's bet cash in that Poland-Austria game, which is Friday midday in Group D. And then the other Group D fixture, Friday 3 p.m. Eastern, Netherlands against France. Netherlands plus 255, France plus 117. As we've just discussed, Dutch coming into this off the back of that come-from-behind success against Poland. France had to be well organised against Austria to get the job done. We've got a pick from Rory, got a lean from Daniele in this one. The two teams, of course, Rory, faced off in qualifying, so there's some significant form lines and some recent form lines to go on here. France, of course, won them both, and they were short price favourites. I mean, you could argue here that France are a good player, plus 117, but you've squeezed out a bit more value for us for this one.
Yeah, I've gone France to win, plus over 1.5 goals for the French. Plus 128. Yeah, I think, even that kind of straight down the middle France play is fine for me. I think with this France team, Austria were kind of the first test we saw them against, and I don't think they blew anybody away. But I think there's almost an argument to say that Austria, on form and in terms of what France don't like to deal with, are actually a harder team for France than the Netherlands. The Netherlands are missing big players. They never really been able to defend for as long as I can remember in my lifetime. And France will try and break them down on the counter-attack to a certain degree. I think this Netherlands side don't know or can't really sit back and defend in the same way that they might have done under Louis van Gaal, that's maybe the last time, or kind of the World Cup against Spain, that's the last time they could really defend. So yeah, I just don't see Netherlands really having the weapons to trouble France in the same way. I think once France go ahead, and I do expect them to go ahead, then Netherlands have to open up even more, and ultimately Koulibaly, Thuram, Mbappe, Dembele, they've just got so much pace and so many weapons. And one of the really impressive things about France was actually the midfield. Kante and Rabiot, I felt, dealt with Austria pretty well on the counter-attack, because that is their kind of main weapon. And yeah, I think Austria are probably better than people think. And I'm starting to really fade the Netherlands. That Poland performance did not impress me much at all.
Do we expect Mbappe to play? He doesn't require surgery. Obviously got that whack on the nose. We think it's a broken nose, but he would want to play. I mean, in this day and age, Rory, players can wear a mask, a facial injury. It's not going to stop him if he wants to play, if they want him to play.
No, a word is that he will play with a mask, I think. And Mbappe, knowing him, he will want to be top scorer at this tournament. And you can almost kind of see him taking off the mask, holding it up, some sort of mask-related celebration. It's really a narrative that is really there for him to score in this game, I think.
Yeah, drifted out to plus 1100 to be top tournament goal scorer. It'd be interesting to see what the market does if it's declared over the next 24, 48 hours that he is fit to play. And it steers us towards Daniele's lean as well, because you're looking at goals in this fixture, Daniele.
Well, it will be, if Mbappe scores, it will be a rendition of Leonardo DiCaprio's famous movie. It was in France, the man with the masked man. And I don't remember the name, but it was one from the 90s, from the France.
Man with the iron mask.
And the Iron Mask. Here we go. It all comes back together. But speaking about the France, the Netherlands defense, Frimpong, De Ligt, Van de Ven, Madsen. Now these are the Netherlands reserve defenders, which probably better than the England starters. The same could be said about the England forwards reserves and the French starters. So for the first time, Netherlands have got a very strong defense, with De Vrij, with Ake, with De Ligt. Maybe the weak link there is Dumfries. I would have liked to see him more up front with against Poland, but of course missing De Jong, missing Koop Miners and Deron is difficult. I think they're gonna struggle to contain France, but they got the pace up front and they got the skills with Depay, with Gakpo, with Simons. Definitely Simons one to watch after such a good season at Leipzig. To hurt France, on the other hand, plays very open, commits always 5 or 6 players up front, with Theo Hernandez pushing and the 3 attackers with Griezmann. Austria were quite clever at playing direct balls and find some spaces there, and we saw a few last-ditch tackles from N'Golo Kante. I think we're going to see many more of this the way France plays. I like the both teams to score here as a lean, at least minus 148. I can't imagine the Netherlands keeping France at bay, but they might nick one.
Just on the French backline, Daniele, we saw William Saliba play left-hand side of the two. Obviously, he was a player that Didier Deschamps has talked about, probably the best player in the Premier League from a defensive standpoint, but didn't look completely at ease, did he, on that left-hand side? He usually plays on the right for Arsenal.
Yeah, you can tell that, especially carrying the ball out of defense, sometimes he had some issues there. Look, Deschamps has got a lot of options. The most natural right-footed, I think it would be Pavard, who's also a right back, but after the bad World Cup he has a bad press. That's why Deschamps prefer to play with Koundé as a right back. Saliba could be an option, but then he needs to take out Upamecano, who Deschamps really rely heavily on. So yeah, it is a good choice to have there, but I think we're gonna see changes on the France back four, at least maybe for the third game, bearing in mind, of course, Theo Hernandez is going to retain his place. He was one of the best players against Austria.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see what happens with that French back line, even though they did get a clean sheet, not the most straightforward on the odd occasion with 1 or 2 players playing slightly out of position. We have got a few more leans to wrap up with, both on Saturday. First of all, 9 a.m. Eastern in Group F. Rory, talk us through your play, Czechia against Georgia.
Yeah, straight in the middle, Czechia to beat Georgia. I think one of the themes that people might have picked up on from me this first round was that I don't like kind of throwing out the entire form but from before this tournament to just go on that first game. I think we need to be a little bit careful of that. Czechia are a better team than Georgia. Georgia qualified through the Nations League route and did very well to do so. But Czechia, yeah, they've got more weapons. Patrick Schick up front is playing for one of the best teams in Europe in Leverkusen right now. At the back, they've got Ladislav Krejci, who's just signed for Girona. Or just about to, and yeah, they have some real talent, this Czech side, and I don't think there's anything you can really look at throughout their form for the last year or two to be like, this team is really going to struggle against this Georgia side. I just think they're better. Minus 134 it's at right now, so Czechia to beat the Georgians.
On the money line, Czechia to grab success in that Matchday 2 fixture, and also Saturday 3 p.m. Eastern, the late game on Saturday in Europe, Belgium against Romania here. Belgium missed opportunities. Lukaku had the ball in the net twice. They were both disallowed. Daniele, Romania surprised everyone with that win over Ukraine. How are we tackling Belgium, Romania? Just a lean for you here.
Goals here, over 2.5 goals, minus 132. Belgium under par, but extremely unlikely not to score at least 1 goal against Slovakia. They need to play quicker through the thirds. I think sometimes the build-up was too slow, but they did show they got the firepower up front. Maybe Lukaku will start alongside Bakayoko this time and De Bruyne further up the pitch. Romania, for me, one of the fittest and most athletic teams I've seen in match day one. Maybe there is an argument for players who play in so-called lesser leagues to be slightly fresher at this time of the tournament. You know, Romania haven't got big stars, but players that are strong, well built, and, you know, someone with decent feet up front. You know, Nicolae Stanciu used to be considered one of the best under 21 players in Europe. Then, you know, transfer took him somewhere else and probably lost a little bit of his momentum. But yeah, must-win game for Belgium for sure. Probably over 2.5 goals for me, minus 132.
That's the lean in the Belgium-Romania clash, which is Saturday, 3 p.m. We'll get some best bets in just a second for them, boys. But Rory, just tell us your schedule here. You're in Cologne, obviously, because you were going to watch the second Scotland game. Is that right? You didn't watch the first one. You weren't in... where was the first one? Munich, wasn't it, the first one?
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't in Munich for the first one, but yeah, I was watching it in a bar, and it was quite sobering despite the amount of alcohol that was consumed in that bar. But yeah, I'm watching the Scotland game in Cologne here, and then I'm actually off back home to Spain to catch Spain against Italy the following night. So I'll be back in Spain and back in Madrid for that.
Fantastic stuff. Who's updating Football España while you're getting drunk in Germany?
That's a good question, Dan. I haven't worked that out. No,
they are still at the Champions
looking
League. They left it at the Champions League of Carlo Ancelotti. It's not been in any news. It's the homepage.
It's just a picture of Carlo. Like that's where I ended.
Just leave that on the website for a bit. Brilliant stuff. Well, enjoy Cologne. Enjoy the Scotland game. We wish you well. Did you have a lean on the Scotland game at all? Did we press gang you for anything, Rory? I don't think we did. We know that we've got one from...
Danielle is probably quite right in terms of a tight game. I think
this
will be the return to Steve Clark ball. Fingers crossed it is, to be honest. And my hope is for a McTominay goal. And hopefully a goal that actually matters.
That'll be a really good game. I think Daniele's got it spot on with unders. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a draw as well. The Swiss know that a point probably going to be enough to put them through. Best bets then, Daniele. What's your best play of the three selections that you've given us for match day 2?
The one you just mentioned, Scotland, Switzerland, under 2.5 goals.
That's the best bet from Daniele. Rory, what's your best play?
I'm going to go with the France-Netherlands bet. I really like France to put them to the sword. That was plus 128, France to beat Netherlands, over 1.5 goals for France.
Yeah, that's the team total, incidentally, over 1.5 for France. So a 2-1 win, a 3-1 win. That'll do us for the game between France and the Netherlands in Group D. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time Euro 2024 edition. A reminder, we'll be with you throughout the tournament. Best picks match by match. So stay with us on the road to Berlin. Our YouTube channel updated, our Instagram channel as well. Nigel will be on the ground for the knockout stages as well in Germany. For now, though, many thanks to Daniele and to Rory. From all of us, it is goodbye.
Ciao.